Hi, everyone. Okay, so today we're going to talk about a complaint that I put in against Ian Scarth and Jessica Hersey in regards, sorry, against those two lawyers to the Manitoba Law Society. Um, we're going to talk about their harassment techniques, bullying tactics, and the impact the Manitoba College of Social Workers and its panel and their lawyers, who were just mentioned, have had on my life in general. Um, and we're also going to talk about how, well, okay, so my my intention over the next few weeks is to allocate an hour a day segment in regards to what I've been going through with this. We're going to go over it in detail, what it means, how the Manitoba College of Social Workers is literally um, saying that I do not have the right to freedom of speech. As a social worker, I do not have the same rights as every other Canadian that has been um, put into legislation in the Canadian Constitution. Okay, so we're going to be talking about that a little bit. Um, for right now, we're just going to talk about the complaint because I put in a complaint with the Law Society of Manitoba, and I put it in on July 19th, 2024. Received a response from the Manitoba Law Society saying that their investigation process usually takes between 4 and 8 weeks. I think it was 4 and 8 weeks. It might have been 6 and 8 weeks. Regardless, um, it would take a while, and the hearing would go ahead, regardless of my concerns, which seemed entirely unreasonable and unfair. And I'll talk to you about why that is in a bit. Um, but after that time frame, I received a letter from the Manitoba Law Society saying that the complaint was going to be dismissed and that I could write a letter to the commissioner, complaints commissioner, if I wanted the complaint reviewed. Um, so I did that, and a week later, which was today, not even, um, I received a letter from the commissioner saying that there is no record of the complaint on file. Essentially, this was kind of concerning to me. So this is what prompted this whole thing for today. So I will be well, one of the things that prompted it. But for the next, for an hour each day, I'm going to be allocating that time to talk about the process with the Manitoba College of Social Workers, its panel, the Manitoba Law Society, and everybody else who has been involved in this process. Um, and I'm also going to go into detail the impacts that these bullying techniques have had on my life and how through the actions of these lawyers, my life at one point was actually put in danger. Um, so let's get this started. Um, so this is the first page here, and um, it says, "Are you disputing legal fees in addition to making a complaint?" No, and then it gives you my information. Who are you making the complaint about? The name's Jessica Hersey and Ian Scarth. They are the lawyers. Jessica Hersey works for Pitt Blado Law. Now, this is the law firm that since 2019 has been harassing me. They represent, or Alexandra Aquila represented um, Owen Johnson in the custody battle, where my constitutional rights were violated. And this seemed to be okay with the Manitoba court system. Um, Ian Scarth works for MLT Enkins. Now, it's interesting with this one. A few months before I was served, I was looking for a lawyer in regards to a property issue, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. How this whole thing seems to be a rippling effect from my constitutional rights being violated from the custody issues. But MLT Ankins, I asked them to represent me in the custody issue, and they said it would be a conflict of interest. Now, it's interesting because they weren't involved in the custody issues. They weren't involved in the custody trial. So how could it be a conflict of interest? That just goes to show how there is a definite ripple effect. Now, months later, they're representing the Manitoba Law Society in this issue. Alrighty, so, they're not representing the Manitoba Law Society. They're representing the Manitoba College just panel of social workers. Now, we'll talk about that in a little bit too, how it's kind of a an illogical name for them, but again, we'll go into that a little bit later. Okay, so number one, what is your relationship to the lawyer? They are the opposing lawyers. On the next page, it says, number two, complaint about your current lawyer. That's not applicable. Complaint about someone else's lawyer. Oh, I shouldn't have clicked off not applicable, but who does the lawyer act for? Manitoba College of Social Workers and their panel. What is your involvement? The opposing party. Is the matter finished? No. Is the lawyer's name, your lawyer's name if you have one? I do not have one. I haven't been able to secure one. 4, what is the area of law involved? I clicked off other, meaning, and under that, employment. Is there a court proceeding? What is the court file number? It's a professional hearing. Where and when is the next hearing date? July 23rd, 24th, and 25th. Now, it's interesting. They ask for the court number. There is no court number. So is this actually a legal hearing? Do they actually have any legal jurisdiction? I have not worked in Manitoba since 2022. This complaint was made in 2023. And another law firm even confirmed that with the Manitoba College of Social Workers, which we'll get into as well later on. Wills matter in states, not applicable. 6, what are your main concerns? I put other, harassment, and unreasonable expectations resulting in a life-threatening situation. Number 7. Oh, sorry. I'm skipping ahead. I'm reading it off of I have a printout here. So I'm reading it off my printout because it's easier on my eyes. But anyway, so number 7, provide full details of your concern in box on page 4. Okay. So we're going to skip ahead to that page. I said, I can't afford a lawyer and am being harassed by Ian Scarth and Jessica Hersey, who represent the Manitoba Panel of Social Workers and the Manitoba College of Social Workers. Their demands for my attendance on July 23rd, 24th, 25th could result in my employer terminating my employment, which will cause financial hardship. Further, it puts me in an impossible situation physically. I can't take 5 days off work, and I work in a remote area of Ontario with limited resources. My employer has indicated that my employment will be terminated if I have to take 5 days off of work. The only buses that run in the morning are in the morning, and to be at the hearing for the 3 days, I would have to leave Kenora on the morning of July 22nd and return on July 26th, which would result in me missing 5 days of work. My only other option is to hitchhike from Kenora to Winnipeg after work in the evening of July 22nd, which puts me physically in danger being a single woman on the highway at night. On the panel of social workers, acting as a chair of the panel is a man that is not a social worker who harassed me daily when we were in school together. Although this conflict of interest has been identified, Ian Scarth and Jessica Hersey plan to continue on with this hearing as if this conflict of interest has not been identified. This causes me further trauma and forces me to relive the traumas of the past during the hearing. They've indicated that I can be added through video conference, to which I do not have the resources to do. Their demands and proceeding with this hearing is discriminatory, causing emotional harm by forcing me into a possible life-threatening situation. This complaint and my previous complaints against Ian Scarth and Jessica Hersey will be uploaded to my YouTube video tonight. Well, I rethought that at the time, but I am rethinking it again now, obviously. Attached, you will find the email chain so that you are aware of the two lawyers. Attached, you will find the email chain so that you are aware that the two lawyers are aware of the impossible situation they are putting me in, and that could result in very real physical, financial, and emotional harm and trauma to me. Thank you. Okay, let's go back to this. So number 8, if you have tried to discuss your concerns with the lawyer, please provide details. I have sent emails to them which are attached, explaining my situation. I've also reached out to other organizations for help, such as the OPP, Ontario Provincial Police, and the Manitoba Ombudsman's Office, without any help. So I guess my only other option is to attend the hearing. Getting there will mean me hitchhiking from northwestern Ontario and staying on the streets of the Winnipeg overnight. Assuming I survive that, I will also need to hitchhike home. Taking 3 days off work when I just started a job might mean the end of my employment. Now, I didn't stay on the streets overnight in Winnipeg, but I put that in for the simple reason that at the time I wrote this, I didn't quite know where I was going to stay. I was waiting to hear back from friends. I couldn't afford a hotel. And realistically, these lawyers should not expect people to know people in every town where a legal hearing is happening. If they're making the demand that you be there for a hearing, they should be paying for a hotel room for you, because otherwise, it creates financial hardship for the person. They might not be able to afford it. And if they can't afford it, what is their only other alternative but to stay on the streets? So there's that. And I mean, this seemed to be acceptable to Ian Scarth and Jessica Hersey. This situation that caused trauma, that put my life in danger, it seemed perfectly acceptable to them, which is really concerning. And it's really concerning that the Law Society seems to think these kind of tactics are okay. I mean, shouldn't a Canadian citizen's life be worth something? And I mean, it's interesting because they're also questioning a few other things about stability. Well, when these individuals are putting you in an impossible situation where you have no alternatives but to make a decision that you wouldn't normally make, I mean, what does that say about their process? And we'll get into that more a little bit later. But 9, what do you hope to achieve by submitting this complaint? An adjournment till something can be put in place where I have representation and where my life is not being put in jeopardy just to attend a hearing. Also, to ensure Corey Wilson is not on the panel as someone who has previously harassed me. So we already went through page 4, so we're going to jump ahead to the next page, which is number 10. No, sorry. That was the part that I just read, so I'll just leave it there for a moment so you guys can follow along. You guys can just pause it and read it if you want. But we're going to move on to number 10 because I want to get this done. And yeah. All right. So number 10, the documents listed below are attached in a supportive complaint email train, which includes 10 pages. Okay. Now let me take a look here. Okay, we're going to have to start at the bottom because that's kind of how these email chains work, unfortunately. And you'll be able to see the full effects of this harassment. Okay, so on May 29th, Ian Scarth wrote to me, "Good afternoon. In anticipation of the next hearing of the inquiry committee on..." Now, it's interesting. Okay, so in this email, he writes, "In anticipation of the next hearing of the inquiry committee." So we'll talk about that a little bit later on how he refers to this process as the inquiry committee, and how because that will apply later on. Okay. I just wanted to point out that was the terminology he used. In anticipation of the next hearing of the inquiry committee on Thursday, June 20th at 1 p.m. at the College of Social Workers, the panel of the inquiry committee, Corey Wilson, Janice Christensen Wood, and David Delay, however you pronounce it, are requesting that the parties attend and advise the panel of the following: whether Ms. Miazga has been able to obtain legal representation, and if not, the efforts to secure any such representation; whether Ms. Miazga objects to any member of the panel; whether the inquiry committee has jurisdiction to hear the charges set out on the notice of hearing attached hereunto, marked Exhibit 1 to the hearing transcript, and I will go over all the evidence that they've put forth as well. If a determination is made on item 3, whether Ms. Miazga is prepared to enter a plea to the charges set out in the notice of hearing. In addition to the notice of hearing, we are also attached hereon to copy affidavit Service A. Douglas, which was attached Exhibit 2 to the transcript of the hearing, which with the objection of Ms. Miazga being noted. In the event Ms. Miazga requires a copy of the transcript from the hearing, Tuesday, May 14th, 2024 at 1 p.m., a request can be made at Four Seasons Reporting Services. So that's another thing. In order for me to get documentation in regards to this legal proceeding that is being forced upon me, I have to pay to get this information, which again speaks to financial hardship and abuse, right? I wrote back on June 4th, "Ian, I need more information about the people on the panel, like their full names, who they are affiliated with, and where they've been affiliated with in the past. In order to determine if a conflict of interest exists, I need to know more about them." He writes back, On the 4th, Ms. Miazga, I can confirm receipt of your email. However, please copy Ms. Hersey on your communications. I will raise your request to the panel and provide a further response. However, before I do, Ms. Hersey, do you have any comments about Ms. Miazga's request that you want the panel to consider? Please include Ms. Miazga in your reply. Now, she writes this email, but it doesn't actually address my concerns. So she writes back on the 5th, June 5th. Ian, with respect to Ms. Miazga's response, I'd like the panel to consider that with respect to the composition and criteria of exclusion from panel of the Social Work Professional Act provides the panel of inquiry committee to be comprised of at least 3 members, one of who must be a public representative, whatever, and that the only exclusionary criteria contained within the Act with respect to section for the panel is that no person may be selected for the panel who has taken part in a review or investigation or what is to be a subject matter of the panel's hearing. Section 42.2 and 42.3 of the Act, which was relied upon for the above statements, are included below. A panel, and notice how she puts in section 42.2 and 42.3, but excludes 42.1. And we'll talk about that in a couple minutes. But it says a panel is to be composed of at least 3 members, one of whom must be a public representative. 42.3, no member may be selected from a panel who has taken part in a review or investigation of what is to be the subject matter of the panel's hearing. Any information provided by the panel of inquiry committee needs only to be such to provide a response to section 42.2 and 42.3. In our review, the request being made by Ms. Miazga is overboard and goes beyond the information required to confirm that one of the panel members is a public representative and none of the panel members have taken part in a review or investigation process. I feel that it is also worth noting that the panel members who are members of the Manitoba College of Social Workers, information regarding education, practice location is available through the Manitoba Public College Register of Social Workers search. That's if they are a member of the college, which the public representative isn't. Now, it's interesting that she thinks that having somebody give their full name and who they're affiliated with is going overboard. That means every single law firm in this whole country goes overboard when doing a conflict search. Because I really did not ask them anything that I didn't ask Ian Scarth or Jessica Hersey anything that when you call into a lawyer's office, they do a conflict search on you. They find out who you're affiliated with. They find out your name. If the party that they're representing, if their opposing party they've ever represented before, all those things they look at. So if this is the stance that Jessica Hersey is stating, she's basically stating every time a law firm does a conflict search, they're going overboard. Because that's essentially what I was being asked to do. I was being asked to identify if there was any I was being asked to identify if there was any conflict of interest. Well, in order for me to do that, I need information on these individuals, which was refused to me. So then on July 12th, Ian writes back to me and says, Ian Scarth writes back to me and says, Ms. Mayaska, Ms. Hersey, further this matter and your email communications on June 4th and June 5th regarding production of further information from the panel members. The panel has reviewed and considered Ms. Mayaska's request and Ms. Hersey's response the same. In response to the panel has determined that no further information about the panel members is necessary. However, the panel is willing to identify who the members of the college and who is a member of the college and who is a public representative, as this was indicated during the initial hearing. And the panel members are, and it says Corey Wilson, Chair, Public Representative. Now, it's interesting that the chair of the Manitoba College of Social Worker panel isn't even a social worker. And we'll talk about that later. Janice Christensen Wood, member of the college, and David Deli, member of the college. So that's the email I got from Ian. So basically they're saying we're demanding a conflict, or we are demanding a response if you have any issues with any of the members of the panel, but we're not going to give you information on the members of the panel so that you can determine if a conflict of interest actually does exist. On June 20th, they write back Ian writes to me, Ms. Mayaska, the panel is currently waiting for you to rejoin the hearing, which you voluntarily left. Please be advised that the panel will proceed with the hearing at 1:50. If you fail to rejoin the hearing, the panel will proceed in your absence. So at the hearing, I told them that I had an issue with Corey Wilson. He had harassed me in school, and I did not want him on the panel. They ignored my concerns and they wanted to go ahead, so I left. I don't feel the need to put myself in a traumatizing situation. Okay. And it's interesting, but they, even after I told them about the trauma that this person had created or imposed on me, they still had no issue with it. They were like, oh, well, too bad, so sad. We're just going to continue on anyways. We don't really care how you feel or the emotional response that we're going to be putting you in, or how this is going to trigger an emotional response, an emotion or a trauma response. We don't care about any of that. We're a panel of social workers, but we don't care about how that makes you feel or what trauma you are feeling in this moment by having this person in the room. Or the fact that we're forcing you to relive certain things because we are determined to have this person there. I write back saying, let me know if Corey Wilson is willing to step out of the room. I will happily rejoin. I do not feel it fair someone on the panel who previously harassed me is allowed to affect my career. And I wrote that on June 20th at 2:16. June 20th, he writes back, Ms. Mayaska, please include Ms. Hersey on your correspondence. And you know what? Realistically, if Ian's writing to me, I'm going to respond to Ian. If Jessica's writing to me, I'll respond to Jessica. But I don't feel really the need to include both of them. If they want to include each other, hey, that's fine. Whatever. Don't really care. But that's not my issue. On June 20th at 2:22, I said, make sure you read the comments and the attached to the video. I did upload a video in regards to what happened at the hearing. so people can see how rational the college was being in regards to having this person on the panel, and how my concerns weren't even relevant to the panel. And how why would that be a surprise? You have somebody on the panel who previously harassed me, who previously bullied me, who previously um like you have somebody who literally emotionally abused me, and this panel's supposed to be unbiased, and that person sitting on the panel. That's not an unbiased panel. Um, so on at on June 20th at 4:48, Ian writes, Ms. Mayaska, Ms. Hersey, further to this matter, the hearing today before the panel of inquiries committee, I'm writing to confirm the following: that the hearing of charges set out in the hearing in motion to be held will be held on July 23rd, 24th, 25th, commencing at 9 a.m. each day at the College of Social Workers. So at this point, I'm being told that I don't have a choice. I am being forced to take 3 days off of work with next to no notice. I mean, yes, it is a month's notice, but how many jobs can you go up to your employer a month in advance and say, I need 3 days off work? But in my case, it would be 5 because of travel time. So I have to go up to this person or this employer, which I just started with, and say, I need a week off work. Well, most employers will go, you need to give me some notice so that I can arrange other staff, and so on and so forth. Number two, the panel of inquiry committee will be, again, he states the people that I had previously mentioned: Corey Wilson, Janice Christensen Wood, and David Deli. But which just, again, it indicates to me that they don't care that they're putting me in a traumatic situation. And these people are the people who are supposed to be social workers. They are supposed to help people work through their trauma. Meanwhile, they are putting me in a, a situation where I have to relive trauma, essentially re traumatizing me. Okay, so June 21st, 2024, I write back saying there's no way I can take that kind of time off work or afford accommodations and transportation to get out there. You'll need to send a video link to Corey Wilson, or sorry, you'll need to send a video link, and Corey Wilson will need to be removed from the panel if I'm to attend. Ian Scarth writes back, Ms. Mayaska, the hearing date has been set up by the panel, and Mr. Wilson has confirmed that he will be returning as the chair of the panel. If you wish to attend the hearing by video conference, I can provide the panel with that request. However, would ask Ms. Hersey to advise as to the position of the college. I've also attached the email from last night to this email as it relates to this matter. Please note that all correspondence providing to me will be shared with the college and vice versa. Jessica Hersey writes, Ian, the college is agreeable to proceed with by way of video conference on the condition Ms. Mayaska is to appear by video conference. She'll need to have a video camera functional and turned on during the course of the hearing. If Ms. Mayaska's camera is not functional, the college's position is that she will need to appear in person. Well, I don't have a functional camera, leaving me with only one option, and that was to hitchhike, which I ended up doing. So Ian writes back, further your Ms. Hersey and Ms. Mayaska, further your email below, the panel has reviewed the request by Ms. Mayaska to attend the hearing virtually and the college's response. The panel has determined the members will be permitted to attend the hearing either in person or via video conference. However, the video conference attendance will be subject to the following conditions: that Ms. Mayaska's video camera and audio must be operational and remain on until the hearing is in recess. If the members' video feed is turned off, the panel may proceed as if she has not attended. So basically, if I don't have the technology, if I don't have the financial means to gain this technology to get video conferencing, which I didn't, I then am being forced into a situation where I have to put my life in danger in order to attend this hearing, or I'm not allowed to attend this hearing, and these hearings will go on without me. See, this is the unreasonable part of this whole situation. And we'll talk about how this is, how this how this has impacted me in the next little while, in the next few videos. The member must be in a private setting or identify whether other individuals are present with her. And the hearing must not be recorded except by the college in accordance with the Act. Well, I'm telling you this right now. Anything that goes on my computer is recorded. Period. End of story. In light of the upcoming hearing and the member's permission to attend by video conference, and it's interesting, but the college is one of the parties. So one party is allowed to record the hearing, but the other party isn't. How is that fair? In light of the upcoming, and that one thing just speaks to the biasedness of this panel. So you've got two parties and you've got a panel which is supposed to be unbiased and being able to assess what's going on between the two parties, right? But you've got the panel saying one party is entitled to record and the other party is not. In light of the upcoming hearing and the member's permission to attend video conference, subject to the conditions stated, the panel wishes to propose the following disclosure deadlines. The panel would like the college to provide any evidence they intended to enter as exhibits at the hearing to Ms. Mayaska by 5 p.m. on Thursday, July 11th. The panel would like Ms. Mayaska to provide evidence they intend to enter into exhibits at the hearing to the college by 5 p.m. on Wednesday, July 17th. And both the college and Ms. Mayaska are to provide counsel to the panel, Mr. Scarth, with evidence that they intend to enter into exhibits by 5 p.m. on Friday, July 19th. Mr. Scarth is instructed to hold the proposed exhibits and only provide the proposed exhibits to the panel if entered as an exhibit during the hearing. Lastly, the panel will deal with the procedural issues prior to the hearing. However, the following process is to be followed. If any party intends to raise a procedural issue, hang on a second here. With this hearing, however, the following process is to be followed. If any party intends to raise a procedural issue with the panel that needs to be dealt with prior to the hearing, they must write the panel, care of Mr. Scarth, clearly stating the procedural issues they wish to raise and their position. The email must be copied to the other party. Mr. Scarth will canvass the position of other parties. Once all of this information has been collected, Mr. Scarth will provide the same to the panel for review and, if appropriate, a decision. If this process is not followed, the information will not be passed on to the panel. Yours truly. So then I write back to him and a bunch of other people. So this is where I'm like, no, this is not okay. I'm going to reach out to people. I'm going to try and get this looked at. So I emailed the UN. I um, emailed the Attorney General of Canada. I emailed the Manitoba Ombudsman's office, and of course, Ian Scarth and Jessica Hersey. I said, "Good afternoon, Mr. Premier, Attorney General, and the United Nations. I have previously put in a complaint with the United Nations pertaining to this hearing being held below, as it violates my human rights in regards to my freedom of speech and expression. But further, this hearing is now putting me in a situation where the government of Manitoba and Canada is financially exploiting me and forcing me into a situation that literally threatens my life. I would also like to ask the Law Society to extend the complaint against Ian Scarth to Jessica Hersey. On that was the previous complaint I made against Ian Scarth. On the panel of, and we'll go over that one later as well. On the panel of social workers is a man by the name of Corey Wilson. I've recognized the name as someone who previously went to school with, who on a daily basis harassed me. Now this person, who is not a social worker, is chairing the panel of social workers against me at the hearing that is supposed to take 3 days. I did not work in Manitoba at the time I did not work in Manitoba at the time. At the time, during the time this complaint came into existence, by the Manitoba College of Social Workers. So to call into question my professionalism in the field is logical, especially when it relates not to my work, but to my family matters. These two lawyers are demanding that I attend a hearing through video conference. My webcam is not working, and I do not have access to any other webcams and do not have the funds to replace the computer. The other option is to hitchhike to Manitoba and stay on the streets for literally days, as I have no funds for hotels. If the college is demanding my presence, they should be responsible for accommodations and travel associated with getting me out there, and anything else, um, because me going out there would literally put my life in danger. Further, this hearing takes away 3 to 5 days, accounting for travel time, worth of pay from my income. Further speaking to the financial exploitation by the Canadian and Manitoba government against me by utilizing the government-funded organizations such as the Manitoba College of Social Workers to further its attacks against me. I mention this part because in an order that was pronounced October 25th, 2022, that robbed me of my children, my family, and which has set into motion a series of events that has robbed me of my home, and where the government has continued to financially exploit me. Now these financial exploitations is again escalated by the demand that I take time off work from a new job, which, best case scenario, I am forced to take time off work. Worst case scenario, I lose my employment, as I've not been with this company for more than a few months. I've reached out to the Law Society, who has shown no interest in helping me before this hearing, as you can see by the attachments, and the Ombudsman's Office of Manitoba, who seem content brushing it off as not their problem. A Canadian's life and livelihood is being endangered by the actions of two lawyers. Should this not be the concern of not only the Law Society, but the government itself? This document attached will be uploaded in the next few hours to my YouTube channel, Manitoba Family Systems, The Shame of Canada. Should this not be resolved ASAP? If my life is put in danger, hitchhiking, or staying on the streets of Manitoba, and something happens to me, I want people to know the events that led up to what occurred. And that is part one of the complaint. And we are going to leave it at that right now. I know it's only been 44 minutes, but we're going to leave that with you guys for now and let you guys process that. And we'll talk about the Manitoba Law Society's response and the second part of the complaint tomorrow. Have a good night, everyone.